Good evening. I'm Harold Hayes. Somewhere between man's need for shelter and that sanctified space where he most feels at ease with himself lies the old question that haunts the practice of architecture. Is it an art form or a service function? Certainly it's no question with respect to the career of Phillip Johnson. Everything around him is of and by design, and his design world, most happily, is visible for all of us. His home is a glass house, one of this country's most stunning private dwellings. His office is in the Seagram building. He was associated with Mies van der Rohe in the building of it, and he takes his lunch in the Four Seasons restaurant downstairs, which he also designed. A block and a half away is the townhouse he lives in and also designed. 2 blocks and a half away is the sculpture garden he created for the Museum of Modern Art, and elsewhere in town, the Asia House and the New York State Theater at Lincoln Center. Mr. Johnson, I suppose we could travel about the world ogling your buildings.
We could go quite a ways.
There have been 2 by others that have moved you very deeply, and still do, I assume. What are they?
The 2 most important buildings in the world?
To you?
The things that changed my life, you might say, were the Parthenon in Athens. These are not very original choices, and Chartres Cathedral in France. And after both of them, I felt a different person.
When did you first see them?
When I was 13 years old, I saw Chartres Cathedral. When I was 20, I saw the Parthenon. And it's just like a conversion. I mean, you experience the Parthenon, you have to be different afterwards. That is, if you're interested in art of architecture.
How did it change you?
It didn't. It's one of those things you always say. You know, what was the experience in your early life? Did you meet somebody or fall in love or something? Well, in my case, I saw a building. But it made you feel better enough so you'd want to dedicate your life to that. It converted me to the importance of architecture as the only thing in the world.
Do you see those buildings as monuments?
I see all buildings as monuments. That's a very difficult word to use because it's unpopular now. But I could imagine everything, including an outhouse, could be a monument, you see. In other words, it's something that calls your attention, a work of art. Building is a work of art, let's say that. It's very hard to make a monument out of a factory, but it's not hard if the artistic intent is there. Even a factory can be a monument.
You say that that's what you're seeking with your buildings.
Monumentality, because I believe that that's what makes a background for living. It's living in monuments.
Let's look at some
The word
of your monuments.
Such wonderful connotations. Well, my monuments, maybe not. That's always such a strong word.
Well, it seems apt. Let's see. What is this that we're about to...
Oh, this is the garden of the Museum of Modern Art. It's a very favorite space of people around New York just for taking walks as well as looking at the sculpture.
When did you do that?
I don't know, 20 years ago. The trees have grown a great deal since this picture, if you've been over there recently. The canals make the division between the parts of the garden. This is another view of the garden from above, looking down on the Balzac and the canals, through the birch trees and the ivy. It's like an oasis.
Did you select the trees?
Yes, I did all that. I worked with Bobby Zion, the landscape architect, who keeps me from making 2 bad mistakes. This is the biggest building we've done. This is a $100 million IDS building in Minneapolis. It's a whole new way of building the tall buildings that we're doing up there. And this is merely the great tower of it. But down below, we've got a whole block of buildings, which is the center of the town.
This is in Minneapolis.
In Minneapolis, and this is the court looking up toward the sky that makes a civic square like St. Peter's. It becomes the square like San Marco, the market square like Brussels, all under control, because don't forget the landscape, the weather in Minneapolis is so bad that you can't walk outside. So instead of a civic square like the European ones, we put it indoors. This is about 25,000 square feet, 100 feet high.
Now, the ceiling is above the picture.
The ceiling is way above the picture. You're seeing just a little lower part of the ceiling on the left, and it climbs up steeply to 100 feet high. And the great thing that we were in luck with in Minneapolis is that it's a 2-level city. You can't go outdoors in Minneapolis, so they've learned to put bridges across their streets. And they go seemed to me miles sometimes out of their way to get up onto those bridges and get across the block. But we took the advantage, and from this block, we put 4 bridges off to the blocks around it. So actually, the department store, which is across one street, uses that level instead of the street level for their impulse buying. You can see the escalator at your left that connects the 2 main levels, and you're looking right out toward one of the bridges now. And so the life is lived on both levels to a more or less equal degree, even more up above and below. And of course, you get the wonderful sense of bowl as you look out over the edge and watch the people milling below. Just to the right is Baskin-Robbins, which is my favorite point of interest, because that's where people walk and look and lick their ice cream cones. Above it is a bar, the Crossroads Bar, right to the far right of the picture, where people sit with their elbows out over the edge and enjoy the view all day long. Needless to say, it's the most popular place in the Middle West. And this whole idea of a court centering life on 2 levels of shops makes something like a combination of a bazaar and a civic square a la San Marco and a coffee place.
Well, was there a problem with the inner city in Minneapolis?
There was a problem. There was a vacuum. There was no
there.
building on this site, but it was next door to 2 of the greatest department stores in the Middle West. So naturally, we had a natural dumbbell, which speculators always talk about, and we could connect with those two department stores on 2 levels.
Is the weather one of those lucky accidents you talk about that caused you to connect the various
You have to have
enterprises?
luck. You have to have luck in architecture, and this was the only city that I know that already lives on 2 levels. It's futile to introduce 2 levels. New York, it would never work, and in some other cities that have tried it. This is a far cry. We're now in
there has to be a
Texas.
reason for it, in other words, so you can make this kind of connection.
Oh yeah, you can't just do it in the abstract.
Can't impose it on us.
You cannot impose anything on a city. City has to develop and grow.
Yeah.
You can try, but every fiat city that's been done has been abandoned.
So a problem must be solved.
That's right. That's why when you say in your introduction about beauty and the desire and the aim for it, you don't ever aim for it. What you actually aim for as an architect is solve a problem. Now the problem today is, what do we do with the central city? What do we do with people?
Well, let's go on with some of your buildings before we come to that.
This doesn't have anything to do with the central city. This is an art museum on the coast, the Gulf Coast at Corpus Christi, Texas, and it's one of the prettiest things I've done. It's, you can see through into the art there at dusk.
What is the surface material?
It's made of concrete that's been etched with a hammer, and it's beautiful, white, glistening, glaring in that Texas sun.
Uh-huh.
It's the interior looking back toward that same doorway. And again, it's a 2-story volume. You can see the pictures hanging on several floors. This is the upstairs skylit gallery with the Frank Stella exhibition. Got one of our greatest artists. But art museums have always been a favorite of mine. We've done 12 of them. This is a water garden that I did in Fort Worth in the evening. The water pours down those cascades, and the people climb up that little path, up and down all day long.
What is it, just in the center of a plaza? Or
It's a park, a 5-city block park.
I see.
And there are some people standing around at the bottom looking down into the whirlpool, climbing up those. That's all a wet wall. It doesn't show. You see the water pouring down those terraces over the edges. Just looking down into the quiet pool on the other side of the garden. The trees are small still, but being Texas, they will be enormous in 3 years. And parks are very great importance, of course, for our city leisure centers. And this is all water, and the playing of water, the quiet water, the jumping water, all kinds of water displays. And this is the nuclear reactor in Israel. This is only a practice nuclear reactor. We don't make any bombs. It's a university building.
Well, now, would you describe the picture we're seeing there? It's rather at a distance that we're seeing it. It's been landscaped around it.
That's right.
And the structure looks almost like a rock from here.
It is. That's where the reactor is, inside that shaped concrete structure. It's a whirlpool type, early type. And this is the inner court, looking toward the tower, but you can hardly see it, toward the main tower.
This is the inner court of the
nuclear reactor, onto which court are all the laboratories.
My God, it's like a Grecian field of some kind there.
It's beautiful. They're the nicest people to work for in the world.
I wish you would tell me how you see the evolution of your own career as an architect, beginning with the glass house, in light of Miss Ada Louise Huxtable's description of your approach to architecture as a search for beauty. You say it's not necessarily that, it's to solve a problem, but you seem to me to have moved in so many different directions as an architect.
But
tell us where you come from.
It just seemed
and how
to
you got
me
there.
to be the nature of the period we're living in. The last time anybody knew what they were doing was the international style. I mean, Mies was thoroughly convinced that he had created architecture for the rest of time, as was Frank Lloyd Wright before him. No, today there's no such certainties. And
there are no schools?
No schools, no certainties, no direction, no names, no styles, no nothing. It's free. And it's part of the fragmented intellectual atmosphere that we live in.
Well, what happened to you, though?
What happened to me was I was completely captivated by the international style and was a great propagandist. I was a preacher more than a critic. And I preached the value of the international style to solve all our problems. And in a way it did. I mean, it conquered all our cities. The cities now, all because they were designed by Mies van der Rohe.
Do you therefore have regrets?
None whatsoever, but time changes. The essence of the world has changed. See? So when I got very bored with all these straight lines and things, I went more historical because my background was the history of architecture, and I've always loved ancient buildings. My favorite period is Islamic. And in more recent years, I like it more and more, as against any other periods in Europe. But that's my own interest. But that naturally showed itself in my reaction to the stiffness of the international style. And so I became eclectic, much more than anybody else. My phrase was, you cannot not know history. There's no way you could avoid it. It's right around you all the time. So why stand around and be so damned original? You see? So I did that for several years, working on the arches, and I did several buildings, several museums with the problem of the arch. It palled.
Now, would this relate to the
that
pavilion?
Would relate to the pavilion in the country. The country place is really sort of a story of my development, because nobody would want to build those things, so I built them as I thought of them. And then I worked out the freer design of the painting gallery, those different sized circles, all tangential. Then the last one is where I'm still at, is the sculpture gallery, which is all angles and spatial modulations of a geometric nature. And my latest building is in Texas, the Pennzoil Place building, which has roofs that pitch and twist like a parrot's beak. A double tower with a slot between, only 10 feet wide, and the top just about touches like that. But it's a very powerful, the biggest building in Texas. And the most expensive offices are in the slope. And it's a rather strange sight, because you expect to see a skyscraper going up and stopping. This doesn't. This bends and kisses at the top, twisting at 45. And that's what interests one now, or me anyhow, is the relation of angular and volumetric shapes. And I don't think we're yet back to any decorative system. I don't think it does any good to revive the Art Deco and the Mexican Mayan details that Frank Lloyd Wright loved so much. I think we have to use the broader brush of what's technologically possible today, and work out volumes and shapes that are just thrilling in themselves, because the days of handcraft is over. The most we can use is glass and concrete. That's about all the materials possible.
Let me ask you this. Can you it's hard for me to visualize what you're talking about in terms of that, the Texas thing that interests you so much right now.
Oh, it's a couple of buildings. One of them does this, and the one behind it does that. See, but in plan, they don't meet. There's a 10-foot gap. So as you drive...
Let's hold it up right here, because there's a camera, and now you go ahead and...
No, I don't think it'll show anyhow. Nonsense. No, it doesn't. I can't draw it anyhow. It's impossible. Nobody can. That's the trick. See, that is so simple looking on that piece of paper, but it's so frightfully complex when you're there that as you walk around the building, it leans in the most improbable directions. Then at the base, I put in a triangular leaning garden with a different kind of a glass roof, more like my gallery in New Canaan. And that's the entrance. The door is cut into that. So we have this leaning, and then this goes straight, and then the top leans up. But the top even leans up on itself. Well, you have to see it.
Sounds to me as though I'm just told this up just in case anybody can make anything of it.
No, I can't.
But it sounds to me what you have just done is perfectly describe an aesthetic statement, which doesn't seem to have any reason for being at all. But you just told me a few minutes ago that every
I was solving a problem. I was solving a problem. We all think we're solving problems. But underneath, of course, I would defend any architect that said that all he wanted to do was something beautiful. Because let's say you're doing
It's
a
reason
concert.
itself.
That's enough. The reason that art is its own reward. You don't need any other. You don't need to look beyond it. If you're happier in one space than you are in another, some artist has been successful somewhere.
Well, the antithesis of this is that architecture serves a political function.
Yes, that is a battle that we fight today, and we fought in the 20s. In the 20s, the battle was when I first knew Mies van der Rohe in the early days, when I looked up his early work, the Barcelona Pavilion and those buildings. There was the battle that they attacked Mies because he used marble. And he book-matched marble. That is, when you lay marble, you take the veining and you take the pieces and spread them out and match them, you see. Well, they thought that was against the canons of modern purity. You see, it was decorative. Well, so what? It looks better that way. You don't need any other defense any more than I need to defend the top of the Penzol by functionalist grounds that it's better to have an office with the glass sloping over your head. It's a lot more amusing. That's enough, you see. So we have the people in our profession that are politically minded. We always have had. That's all right. God bless them. I'm not interested politically. I would work for the right direction. I do work for developers, but I would much prefer to work for the city. I would prefer most of all to work for the federal government. Architecte du roi, I've
So your
always wanted
concerns
to
have
be.
become quite social in the latter part
That
of your...
is the name of the game today.
It wasn't
The name
before,
of the
though,
game
with
in-
you.
The name of the game in the 19th century was business. You see, individuality, developing the cities in the devil-may-care. Now everyone is this. I'm not the only one. The interest, the searchlight of interest moves. And right now the interest is focused on people and how do you get them together and how do you separate.
Well, for example, what is terribly exciting to me about a man of your qualities is an aesthetic statement with things like low-cost housing.
I'd love to do low-cost housing, but the only one I've tried was on Roosevelt Island when we did the original, our firm did the original plan. When I say we, our firm is made up of two people, John Berge and myself, and he's really the better part. I talk for us, but don't worry, the work is equal. And when we got that job from the UDC to design Roosevelt Island, that was our greatest opportunity of our lifetime. And our original plan was shown and was more or less used, but we didn't get the chance, unfortunately, to build any of the buildings.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about what your concept was?
It was a wandering street, which is there, down the spine of the island. Then the idea was to look down little short streets at the water. So if a steamboat went by, it would by over your head across a little narrow gap. That was not kept, and the developments were slightly different, naturally. When you get to actually building something you've done a master plan form, it's always subject to change. So I can't, I would have done it differently, naturally. But
If you had all the money you needed to do it, all the time necessary, and the political authority to do it, what would you do about New York City or with New York City? Or would you just
well,
simply
you wouldn't have all of those
throw it
things
out
at
and
once.
start all over again? But
Well,
let's-
I used to say you just put the boards, as Time Magazine once said, put boards across the top of the cars and start over. But that's not fair. No, I think the future of New York, and it wasn't just if I had all the power, it seems like the logical thing to do, make the next step. The third city, I called it, when I worked on it, just for the hell of it one year.
when was this?
Oh, I don't know, 10 years ago when I wasn't busy. You can't do these things when you get busy. Sort of a Commodore Vanderbilt thing. You see, the
Well, I
railroad
don't understand
station-
what that means.
Oh, I know. The first city was downtown, right? Manhattan, tip of Manhattan.
Yeah.
The second city is the one we're now living in, which is centered at the Grand Central. The railroads were the key drawing point, and by putting the railroad where they did, the railroad station, they created a new nucleus out of which things always grow centrifugally, just naturally, out from the hub of the transportation. So I suggested a new hub, you see. Now, you
Where?
can't do, well, that's it. You can't say where, because if you do, you're saying you're touching my home, and that's no more possible. You
Well,
see,
I can say where.
you
but
can
go
say
ahead.
where, but I won't, because I said it once and got in trouble. You see, the point is that you can't do this unless it's easy and natural for the people living in that place. You can no longer move people.
No more Moses.
No more Moses. Moses is the dirty word today since that excellent Caro book. So nowadays, I wouldn't even suggest this. I wouldn't think of it.
Well,
But
is it even
seemed-
related to the Newburgh Airport idea? I mean, that's what,
That's too
75
far.
miles away.
Too far out. No, I meant another narrower that would develop naturally. But I was thinking of 19th century developments, you see, which you could, in those days, raise ground, or you could even under urban renewal, which is no longer possible. Raise thing and make a big new crossroads in New York using the Triborough system and the Park Avenue still.
So the whole
See?
key was access of communication.
Yeah, based on a multi-leveled.
Must have been North Bronx. There's no other place you could have gone. Go
look,
ahead.
it could be in lots of people's homes too, and I'm not going to say where it was. It was up there somewhere, and by basing it on the old blasted car and on the subway system, which was already started, on the railroad system, which is already there, by using multi-levels and 100-story buildings, and but then clearing land, you see, opening little squares and plazas, using what's there.
Because I was about to ask you about parks. It seems to me the lucky accident in Manhattan is Central Park.
Central
The
Park's
parks
the greatest
around
thing that ever happened to New York. Nobody knows that now. If you were to build a park today, per capita size, the same as Central Park was in that day, the park would be the size of the borough of Brooklyn. I mean, so it's a strong statement that Olmsted make, that he made a park that would last to this day, and we still enjoy every single square inch of it.
Well, Mr.
Someday we'll fix it up.
Mr. Johnson, what would you do besides place this axis of communication somewhere and put in some plazas? But
Well, I had developed quite a few amenities to go with it. I wouldn't do anything. That would be the center of housing, see, which would be low-rise. Because I like to think that I like to look at trees. Somehow or other, if you live, you should not live too high above the top of the nearest tree. It's only fair, isn't it? That's where birds land, that's where leaves fall off. You can see the leaves starting in the spring. You get the sense of cycle. Everybody has
it's
that
certainly
right,
true in
it seems
European
to me.
cities in ways that it's not in this country.
Not in this country. Well, they're not so good either. What the Russians have built is pretty gruesome barracks. See?
What happened with this plan? Did you publish it anywhere?
Oh, no, I should say not. You forget those early things. But it was merely an exercise in what to do that would connect on with what had already happened. But I think now, looking back, that there's something much more important than that, and I think our country will come to it very, very soon. And that's just the question of where people live. It's the next step. We have clothed our people pretty well. You can feed them, but you can't house them. Why not? You see, the truth of our industrial system is that we can produce so fast, we can't consume anywhere near fast enough.
Well, what about in New York City, these vast areas that are being abandoned because of its own weird laws?
I wish
having
I
to
were
do-
an economist. I can't understand it either.
But does an architect have any relationship to that kind of situation? Is it possible to take that property and those buildings and somehow to deal with them so that people would want to go live in them?
There are some architects that work on that. I know nothing about it. I think that people are apt to romanticize an architect's ability. You read Towering Inferno or that famous book with O'Rourke and all that, Gary Cooper, and you rather think that they're people of power. We're not. We're pretty far down the ladder of power, and unless somebody wants architecture as badly as Governor Rockefeller, let's say, did, or as Ed Logue, the head of UDC, did.
To that extent, it really is a service, isn't it?
Yeah, we're a service to the great of this world, but only to those members of the great elite who want to build. See, and that we have to wait for a Governor Rockefeller or a Louis or a Pope Pius or
What
something.
is the responsibility of architects to educate our leaders? Or is there a responsibility there, do you feel?
I don't think so, you see. I know lots of architects say that we should get out into the arena and elect or not elect. I would look around for Ed Logues of this world and elect them, because then they'd pick good architects. He did over New Haven, he did over Boston, he tried
Don't
to
you
do
think
over
a
New York.
man, well, let's take a Mr. Bronfman again. As
Sam
far
was
as
a great
Seagram's are
patron.
concerned. Excuse me?
He was a great patron of
Well,
architecture.
but his daughter had to persuade him, correct? Would it not be logical to assume that if an idea were presented to a reasonably intelligent man, he would then embrace it, not having thought of it for himself?
No, because people are either visual or they're not. I mean, when we had the question of this strange skyscraper before the board, you can imagine, and there's one man, you see, that just turned, because nobody wanted to build this. It's rather strange. See? Nobody wanted to build it, and said, well, we might build it if you cut the top off it. Some people felt. The head man said, I want it built that way. Somebody had to come along and say that, you see. And that's eye and feeling. It's nothing to do with
And
a
an
rational
awful lot of money.
way of designing a building, because it was a little more expensive.
You don't teach anymore. Why not?
No, I love teaching because I think that is a duty that architects have. The old days was better when you had young architects in your office, and then you learn by osmosis. You can only learn by osmosis.
Schools don't do any good?
I don't think so. I think they should all be abolished, and you go back to the normal way of learning. I don't think
all
you can teach art.
apprenticeships, then?
Yes, I don't think you can teach art.
Who do you think are the interesting young architects today? Who do
Oh,
you
there are a lot
watch?
of great. We have really a better crop coming now than we had in my day.
All eclectic.
That's a bad word. No. There's nobody eclectic in the sense of choosing historical backgrounds. They are all in somewhat different directions, and naturally the ones that are in the directions that I like are the best ones. But they're all
Who are
over
some
the
of
world.
them? Where are they?
Well, in England, there's Jim Sterling. He's certainly the smartest of the young ones. In Canada, there's John Andrews.
What are some of their
Italy,
buildings,
there's
Mr.
Giancarlo
Jones?
Di Carlo. John Andrews built the Harvard Architectural School, and the great many buildings, the tallest building in the world he built in Toronto. And Sterling has built university buildings mostly in England. Giancarlo Di Carlo builds university buildings in Italy. In any country it can be found today because the communication is instantaneous. The Japanese are doing excellent work, the young men. Can't get their names. They're so difficult to identify.
Well, in these various countries, or these other countries, are there schools emerging there, or are they all part now of this
all part
search
of
for
one place. You see,
immediate-
for instance, the best magazine in the world now is Japanese.
And that is?
A+U, funny name.
The best architectural magazine?
Architecture magazine, but they publish for all over the world because it's all one design team now. There's not a school here and a school there. It isn't the German or the French or the American school.
It's truly Henry Kissinger's interdependence, I suppose.
Total. Well, you see, the intellectual speed of communication with magazines is so instantaneous that naturally you do a design and it's copied before you can build it. It's a very funny feeling. But so what? That's
Does
the
this
way it
mean
is
that
nowadays.
the structural knowledge is comparable, the engineering knowledge is comparable?
Engineering schools are the same throughout the world, and they all do the same work, and it's nothing very difficult engineering, or in the engineering sense that we're doing.
Not even this building that goes like that?
It's complicated, but I mean, you got to do something like that, don't you? I mean, aren't we really terribly bored with skyscrapers, except this Chrysler Building? I mean, what's your favorite building in New York? The Chrysler Building. I'll answer for you because it's got more zip-zap and excitement. I didn't like it when it was built.
Mr.
I was
Johnston,
outraged.
as long as you're around, we're going to be excited, I can tell you. It's a delight to have you with us here at Round Table this evening. Thank you very much. Good night. I'm Harold Hayes.